Now, let's have a look at how the markets are doing on this Friday afternoon. Let's speak to Joshua Mahoney, who's Chief Market Analyst at Scope Markets. Very good afternoon to you, Joshua. And it's been a pretty turbulent week, not least of all, of course, in the United States.
Yeah, certainly what used to be the region where you were guaranteed gains appears to be anything but that at the moment. It feels like the likes of China, the likes of Europe has been a lot more stable. And instead, we've seen US markets heading towards the downside, the S&P 500 reaching contraction territory. That means it's dropped by 10% yesterday, but we've seen a bounce back today. Does it mean that it's over? Not necessarily. We're still seeing many of these names down heavily over the course of recent weeks. But certainly this is a welcome reprieve, whether it's down to the fact that we potentially could see a breakthrough between Russia and Ukraine, or maybe it's just some people buying the dip. Many people would want to buy the dip when they see something such as a 10% correction. That remains to be seen, but I think there's plenty of bumps in the road yet.
And let's talk about politics in the United States. There's having an impact, of course, potentially on the economy too. Lots of talk about government shutdown there with the Democrats kind of digging their heels in.
Exactly. So today is the deadline for them to find an agreement over how to fund the government. Now, if you cast your mind back to Donald Trump's first reign in the White House, we saw a massive government shutdown, a historic government shutdown over his need to get funding for the wall, essentially, between the US and Mexico. Now it looks like we could see the same. Now, there's disagreement between both sides. That always appears to be the case. But this time around, we've got Chuck Schumer, the Democrats, who appears to be willing to vote for a reprieve that would essentially fund them for 6 months. If we do see that come to fruition, then people can breathe a sigh of relief and it gets kicked down the road for another 6 months. But certainly, if you look at markets, last time we saw a government shutdown, the area where we could see benefiting from this could be gold. And it's notable that gold outperformed during that period. And just today, we saw it hit a record high of $3,000.
Yeah, record ever high, indeed, Joshua. And we must talk about Tesla. We saw images there just a little earlier of President Trump and Elon Musk. Its share price has certainly had a roller coaster ride, but in one direction, hasn't it? And this is a company that now is calling on the White House to maybe look at tariffs because of the impact it could have on its business. You couldn't make this up.
Exactly. I mean, we don't necessarily know who wrote the note. It hasn't necessarily been...
Well, you'd like to think it was an Elon Musk, but you never know. You never know.
Exactly. And this really highlights the fact that, it's all well and good coming out with this rhetoric about how great tariffs are going to be for US manufacturers. But ultimately, manufacturers are reliant on inputs alongside free trade with other nations. And Tesla have said that they're disproportionately at risk due to the risk to manufacturing as a whole. And certainly the prospect of increased inputs for a company that's been fighting a war on the EV price front with many of its Chinese competitors clearly has them quite worried at the moment.
OK, Joshua, really appreciate your time this afternoon. Joshua Mahoney there from Scope Markets. Thank you. Now, the head of one of the UK's most iconic sports car manufacturers, that is Morgan, has called on the government to provide clarity over the future of petrol cars. Matthew Hole, Morgan's managing director, warned that continued uncertainty threatens investment, jobs and the ability of companies like his to plan for the future. Well, earlier this week, I spoke to him at the launch of Morgan's new flagship model, the Supersport.
It's an exciting point in history, really, for us. It's been 25 years since we've launched our last flagship. And so this is really kind of putting Morgan back on the map. And yeah, this is a car that hopefully will be a global success for us.
And global success, because there'll be people at home who are not aware of the brands. What is global success? Just talk us through who you are and how big you are.
So we're a 116-year-old automotive manufacturer. We're one of the oldest, actually, in the UK, so steeped in history. And we sell our cars throughout the world, so in the USA, right through to Asia, all across the UK and Europe, so Middle East. So for us, this is a car that will hopefully be a success in each of those markets, and kind of propel the company going forward.
And they are pretty unique cars, aren't they, on the whole? These aren't mass market, isn't that the bottom line, really. I mean, who tends to buy Morgan cars?
So we've got a wide variety of customers, and they are very much hand-built. So they're all bespoke, they're all built to order. There's a huge amount of craftsmanship that goes into every car, so they are truly hand-built. I guess the cars appeal to customers across the world who love the creativity and the craftsmanship that goes into cars, but also just really enjoy driving. So it's a beautiful thing to own. It's a real journey to go through and spec your own Morgan, but also once you get it, it's a delight to drive. So yeah, it's the guys who really enjoy motoring.
And these are old school cars in many ways. That's you talked about people who enjoy motoring. I mean, they've got combustion engine in them, don't they? And you're concerned because clearly the old combustion engine is on the way out, isn't it?
Well, it depends. It depends who you listen to on that front. For us, our customers are telling us that they still want to buy combustion engine cars, and therefore we do see a future in internal combustion engine going forward. Our cars are incredibly sustainable, so the powertrain that we're using is a really cutting-edge unit, very low emissions, and how we craft our cars, the way we build our cars by hand, is inherently sustainable. The materials that we're using are heavily recycled. The ash that we use in our frame, in the wooden frame of the body of the car, that comes from our own sustainable source. So for us, we are a very sustainable car company, and we think that this is the right way to do it. This is the right way to build cars.
But obviously,
have one eye on electrified future.
Well, the government obviously want to phase out your type of cars by the end of this decade. Do you feel the government's just not listening? I mean, it does feel that the tide is going in the opposite direction to what you'd like it to be.
We've been sitting down with the government, so I've had the benefit of sitting around with ministers, a ministerial roundtable, and I do get a sense that they are listening to us. So the message that's coming loud and clear from Morgan is that we can only traverse to electrification after the mainstream manufacturers. So it's really important because we utilise most of the components, lots of the powertrain components that they put in their products. So there has to be a lag, and they have to lead. So we've sent a message loud and clear to them. We believe that the message has been heard, and we await, hopefully, what will be some amendments to the ZEV mandate, but also for the ICE ban.
That was Matthew Hull, the Managing Director of Morgan's Car Company. OK, you're watching Business Live here on Sky News. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, ahead of the St Patrick's Day weekend, why the market for Stout has become so competitive. Stay tuned.
Prime Minister Modi is the most popular politician in the country. He is expected to win his third term in these elections.
Jubilation in the streets, while some emotional.
This is a political victory for Prime Minister Modi and his Hindu Nationalist Party, a promise fulfilled. I'm Neville Lazarus, and I'm Sky's reporter based in Delhi.
He paid over 50,000 to traffickers to get him to America. Instead, he was kidnapped, tied up, and threatened by smugglers. A commando from the state force walks me through to a Maitai village on the front line.
Firing the civilian and they're burning our house.
We cross to the opposite side, held by the cookies.
When they fire, we have to retaliate.
Sky News, get the full story first. Companies like these are helping India in its trajectory to be a serious player in space exploration.
The enthusiasm is palpable. The young desire change.
These elections are a pivotal moment for the country's economic and political history. The concern here is that the public healthcare system is inadequate.
In a prayer, she's asking God to help understand what happened. I cannot carry on. God, help me. He says his world has crashed. Like him, there are scores of families searching for their loved ones.
Too often have families endured such tragedies for the negligence not only by the administration, but also by spiritual people in this country. Free, wherever you get your news. Even though it has few seats in Parliament, Kashmir is symbolic and very significant. It's often been called a nuclear flashpoint.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. I'm ready. Are you? Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News. We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. I'm ready. Are you? Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News. We're rolling.
Welcome to the world.
Our new podcast, starting now. It's very exciting. Every week, we'll be reporting from the world's trouble spots.
We get to hold those in positions of power accountable, and we get to ask the questions that the audience, the listeners, want to know about.
And that's why it is so important that people tune in, come along for the road, come along for the journey. It'll be fun.
$1,500 movie? I don't want this flight to end. Fly Emirates, fly better.
Now, it is St. Patrick's Day weekend, so expect a lot of Stout to be drunk across the UK and Ireland, because there's also been there's been a big increase in demand for not only Guinness, but Murphy Stout, which has been made a reappearance on our supermarket shelves as well. Well, I've been speaking to Will Rice, on-trade director at Heineken UK, which brews Murphy's, and I asked him why Stout had become popular all of a sudden.
Murphy's is back and Stout's back, most importantly, which is fantastic. The market's been in about 20% growth on Stout recently. And what better way to celebrate St. Patrick's Day than with a pint of Stout?
And do we know why that is? Why have consumers, the punters, if you like, in the pubs and even in the supermarkets, decided to kind of go back into Stout again?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic drink, first and foremost. And I think post-COVID, what you've seen is trying to recreate things that you can't get at home. And a perfect pint of Stout in the pub is a fantastic way to celebrate, to commiserate. We're seeing younger consumers come into Stout, which is great. And as I said, Stout's in growth, 20% growth. And obviously, there's a market leader, but there's a fantastic alternative in Murphy's, which we're seeing in more pubs now. We're in 700 pubs, and we've tripled that distribution over the last year. And we're now hitting the supermarket shelves as well, which is fantastic.
And I see, people talking online about splitting the M rather than the G. I mean, we cannot not talk about Guinness, of course. I mean, it dominates the market. How does, a recognisable brand like Murphy's, but how does that take on Guinness when Guinness is frankly so popular at the moment?
Obviously, it's a market leader, right? And we're just having a bit of fun with Murphy's, frankly. We've got other market leaders in Beer Moretti and Foster's, in Cruz Campo, in Necco. We've got plenty of market leaders. And so we're just having some fun with Murphy's, giving publicans an option that is different. And I think giving consumers that a different option as well. 1 in 2 pub goers are going to go to the pub this weekend to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, which is just fantastic. And why not? Why not choose a Murphy's? It's a fantastic brand, fantastic liquid, and I think it just offers a great alternative to both us and our customers, most importantly.
Yeah, my director has very cleverly suggested just now that maybe I should do a blind taste test over the weekend to see if I can tell the difference between Guinness and Murphy's. I have to say I'm not necessarily a big Stout fan. Just very finally on that, though, have you found that when there is a shortage of Guinness, let's be honest about this, that people do turn to the alternative?
Yeah, of course. We didn't want to let any pub run dry of Stout over Christmas, and that's why we've ramped up production. We ramped it up at Christmas time, and we ramped it up now in order to make sure customers have got everything they need for St. Patrick's Day. And do go and do that blind taste test over the weekend, Darren, and let us know what you think.
There you go. That was Will Rice from Heineken on the boom for Stout as we go into the St. Patrick's Day weekend. OK, that is it from me on Business Live for this afternoon and indeed for this week. We're back on Monday at 11:30. Do join me then if you can. Up next, it is the News Hour with Jonathan Samuels, the very latest on Ukraine, Russia and the United States. The US Secretary of State saying that he is cautiously optimistic about the chance of a deal. That's it from me. Have a really good weekend. I'll see you Monday. Stay tuned to Sky News then. Bye-bye.
We are under Israeli military restrictions in terms of some of the things that we can film, but it's important to be in there. What a slow drive for the president as he approaches his golf club. 4 more years! Free wherever you get your news. I'm Mark Stone and I'm Sky's correspondent based here in Washington, D.C.